Hello and welcome to Angelo's Reviews, and today I'll be reviewing the concert I saw last night at Bristol Beacon in Bristol, featuring soprano Lucy Crowe, the London Symphony Orchestra, conducted by their conductor emeritus, Sir Simon Rattle. Now, this particular concert was a very special one, since Simon Rattle's appearances, particularly in Bristol, have been quite rare. Well, Bristol Beacon have only been opened for over 3 years now, 3 years. And this was his second appearance, and this performance was completely sold out. And overall, this concert was absolutely spectacular. We had 3 pieces on the programme. In the first half, we had the rarely played Roberto Gerhard Symphony No. 3 Collages. Now, before I listened to this programme, I haven't come across the Gerhard before, so I was listening to it. I found it very interesting, to say the least. With me in contemporary music, over the years I've grown to contemporary music a lot more, and this piece I just found completely fascinating. The use of how Gerhard uses the live electronics. It's just fascinating, and to see it live, performed live last night, I have to say it was probably one of the most interesting things I've ever seen live. There was someone sitting just right next to the horns left, and he had an iMac laptop with a speaker plug next to it, some sheet music next to it, and some other electronic bits and pieces around it. And he was manipulating all these sounds, which I found just absolutely fascinating and incredible to watch and listen to as well. The sound effects sounded very watery, and a lot of the orchestral sounds were very fascinating and incredible. I thought some of the great climaxes in this piece were just off the scale, just through the roof. And Simon Rattle has been the champion of Gerhard's music for decades, and last night's concert was proof that he's been associated with this music for such a long time. So that Gerhard piece was a real delight to watch. Then we were treated to probably one of the most gorgeous pieces ever, Richard Strauss's 4 Last Songs, sung by soprano Lucy Crowe. Now, these days, a lot of sopranos, a lot of the great sopranos have now gone. Sopranos such as Jessie Norman, Gundula Janowitz, Birgit Nilsson, and a lot of sopranos today, I find that they use a bit too much vibrato, and every time they use too much vibrato, the note they're singing is not always in tune. Well, this was not the case with Lucy Crowe. The vibrato she used was absolutely spot on, and her every note was just tone perfect, and her singing was just absolutely gorgeous to listen to. It was one of the, out of all the sopranos I've seen so far live, she's definitely one of the best I've ever seen live. Her voice was just glowing. It was absolutely magnificent. The orchestra as well accompanied her so well. Very rich writing, particularly for the strings, for the horn as well. Principal horn was just absolutely outstanding. All 4 songs, I struggled to choose a favourite, but all 4 songs are so unique. If I had to choose one, it would have to be the last one, which is Im Abendrot. I just love how it begins with just this huge wall of sound with the strings and the horns, and the strings just sweep through. And then you got the soprano. It's just it's music for the soul. It really is, and it just gives you goosebumps. All the hairs at the back of your neck just go up. Last night, the performance of the 4 Last Songs was just absolutely outstanding. It was absolutely sublime. Sublimity at its best. In the second half, we had Gustav Mahler's Symphony No. 4 in G major. Now, Sir Simon Rattle has been a champion of Mahler for many, many, many years. Simon Rattle has been associated with, people have always associated Simon Mahler with Simon Rattle. People have raved about his Mahler. So I was really, really, really curious to see what this performance would be like. And this performance of Mahler 4 was just absolutely spectacular. From the very, very start to the very end. Well, the first movement, let's start from the beginning. The first movement is marked, I've got my score here, it is marked Bedächtig nicht eilen, which is, well, actually I've got my program here which gives the translations. Bedächtig nicht eilen, which means deliberate, not hurried, and then it goes recht gemächlich, which is very leisurely. The only problem about this was Simon Rattle, I think, might have taken the tempo markings a bit too literally. The opening was too slow. It was like blup 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 bum bum bum, etc. It was a tad bit slow, but then it picked up, and it went like ba 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 bum bum bum. So it wasn't completely slow then. So a lot of the playing was just absolutely outstanding. Principal trumpet James Fountain absolutely shined in his solos in the first movement. Woodwinds were immaculate. Some of the big climaxes in the first movement, particularly when the tam-tam comes in, there's quite a turbulent section going on. That was great. And overall, the first movement was just a delight to listen to. The second movement, I just love it for its quirkiness and stuff. Well, the leader, the concertmaster, has another violin to play. I think it's called like a, please correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's called like a Scotiatura violin. It's tuned up like a third or something. It gives it its very eerie quality. It's meant to kind of represent death. But the concertmaster, Benjamin Gilmore, he played this solo really, really well. There was one problem in the middle of the movement when the concertmaster's got his solo, but then the principal horn player have got play alongside him. It's like a little duet, and the principal horn wasn't in time at all, and he struggled to keep in time. And I don't know if it was, well, his fault entirely, or maybe it was Simon Rattle, because watching Simon Rattle's gestures, it was quite hard to follow a lot of the time. But it then eventually redeemed itself. The third movement, oh my goodness, is probably one of the most sublime movements in the whole symphonic repertoire. It's so tranquil, well, most of it is. There are some turbulent climaxes here, which were just absolutely outstanding. And then towards the end of the movement, you've got this huge, huge climax. Everyone is like so quiet, like Triple P or whatever, so quiet. And then the strings coming, and then the whole orchestra explode. There's this huge wall of sound, particularly from the horns, and then the trumpets, the timps, the rest of the percussion section. It was just absolutely outstanding. They played it really well. And then the fourth movement, well, during that big climax, actually, Lucy Crowe walked back on, and she was wearing something completely different. In the Strauss, she had this huge, this really shining white dress, but then she dressed up for the Mahler in this green. So for the Strauss, she had no music at all, but for the Mahler, she had music. So in the fourth movement, again, she sang really, really, really well. I think in the faster passages of the last movement, in the faster passages, I think she wasn't always in time with the orchestra. It reminded me actually of a video I watched online of Leonard Bernstein and Christa Ludwig when they were rehearsing Das Lied von der Erde, and Christa Ludwig was, or Bernstein was really rushing the orchestra, and Christa Ludwig was complaining to Bernstein, saying it's too fast, can we slow it down? But Bernstein didn't want to slow it down. It reminded me a bit like that, because I think the orchestra had a little bit too quick at one point, and I think it might have been too quick for Lucy Crowe. But some of the moments in the fourth movement, particularly when the first idea of the first movement comes back with the sleigh bells, it was just absolutely outstanding to watch. So overall, this performance of Mahler 4 was just spellbinding. Simon Rattle, well, I listened to a lot of his recordings over the year of his Mahler, and to be honest with you, I wasn't the biggest fan of them. They were good, but I've heard so much better in the past. But a lot of his recent Mahler recordings, particularly with the Bavaria Radio Symphony Orchestra, have been particularly outstanding. So maybe late Rattle is better than early Rattle. And so I didn't know what to expect. I was thinking, oh, was this Mahler 4 going to be really good? Or is this going to be a bit on the mediocre side? But this was just absolutely outstanding. And it was such a joy to watch Simon Rattle in his element. So, and I look forward to seeing the London Symphony Orchestra and Sir Simon Rattle again next season, as I've got a few concerts booked with them next season, which I'm very much looking forward for. So yes, that was my review for last night's concert with Sir Simon Rattle and the LSO. Thank you for watching this. I hope you enjoyed my review. Take care.